A powerful and deeply loving story asterisk. Victoria Bennett checked her tablet for the 7th time in 3 minutes, her heels clicking against the marble floor of the Grand Shear Hotel. The charity gala she had spent 6 months planning was about to begin, and everything needed to be perfect. At 28, she had built her event planning business from nothing, and tonight's event for the Children's Hope Foundation could make or break her reputation in the industry. She turned the corner toward the main ballroom, distracted by a frantic text from her floral vendor, and walked straight through a set of elegant double doors. The hallway beyond was quieter, more exclusive, with artwork that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. A woman in an impeccable black suit appeared from nowhere, her smile bright and professional. "Mrs. Thorne? Thank goodness you're here. Mr. Thorne has been asking for you. The photographer from Style magazine is ready for your couple's shoot before the gala begins." Victoria blinked, confusion washing over her. "I think there's been a mistake." "I'm not. Please, this way. We're running behind schedule." The woman gently but firmly guided her down the corridor. "Mr. Thorne specifically requested that we bring you directly to the Sapphire Suite when you arrived." Victoria's phone buzzed again. Another crisis with the catering staff? She needed to get to the ballroom, but the woman was already opening an ornate door and ushering her inside. "I'll just explain the confusion and leave," Victoria thought. Stepping into the most luxurious suite she had ever seen, floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city skyline at sunset. A man stood with his back to her, talking intensely on his phone. He was tall, with dark hair and shoulders that filled out his tailored suit jacket perfectly. Even from behind, he radiated the kind of confidence that came with power. "I understand your concerns, Mr. Chen, but I assure you that my personal life is stable. Yes, my partner will be attending tonight. We're very committed to each other." His voice was smooth but strained. "The company's values align with family and stability. You have my word?" He turned as he ended the call, and Victoria found herself staring into striking amber eyes that widened in surprise. For a moment, neither spoke. He was younger than she expected, perhaps early 30s, with sharp features softened by full lips and an expression that suggested he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. "You're not Diana," he said finally. "No, I'm Victoria. Victoria Bennett. There's been a mistake. Your assistant thought I was someone else, and I was trying to explain, Mr. Thorne." A new voice interrupted as the door opened. A man in his 60s entered, followed by 2 younger associates and a photographer laden with equipment. "Perfect timing. Chen Industries just confirmed they want to meet your partner before finalizing the investment. They're very traditional, you understand. Family values and all that." Julian's face went carefully blank, but Victoria saw panic flash in his eyes. The older man turned his attention to her, his smile warm but assessing. "You must be the mysterious lady who's captured our Julian's heart. He's been so private about you." Victoria opened her mouth to correct him, but Julian moved with surprising speed, crossing the room to stand beside her. His hand found the small of her back, warm, even through the fabric of her dress. "Mr. Hammond, I'd like you to meet Victoria," Julian said. His voice steady despite the tension Victoria could feel radiating from his body. "She prefers to keep our relationship private." The lie hung in the air between them. Victoria's heart hammered against her ribs. She should correct this immediately, walk away, get back to her own event downstairs. But something in Julian's expression stopped her. It wasn't manipulation or arrogance. It was desperation mixed with something else. Hope, perhaps. "How lovely," Mr. Hammond beamed. "Young lady, you've made a wise choice. Julian is one of the most promising entrepreneurs in the tech sector. His company's humanitarian applications of artificial intelligence are revolutionary." The photographer began setting up lights, and Victoria felt the situation spiraling beyond her control. Julian's hand on her back applied gentle pressure, asking without words for her cooperation. "Could you give us just one moment?" Julian asked the group with a charming smile. "I need to speak with Victoria privately before we begin." He guided her to the far corner of the suite, near the windows. Up close, she could see fine lines of stress around his eyes, the slight tension in his jaw. He smelled like cedar and something crisp she couldn't identify. "I know this is insane," he said quietly, his voice urgent. I know you don't know me, and I have no right to ask this, but I'm desperate. That man Hammond represents a consortium of investors from Chen Industries. They've been concerned about my personal life, whether I'm stable enough for the responsibility of the funding they're considering. $300 million that will allow my company to provide free AI-assisted healthcare diagnostics to underserved communities worldwide. Victoria's professional mind kicked in despite her shock. And they think having a girlfriend makes you more responsible? A committed partner. Someone who grounds me. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect styling. My ex-fiancée, Diana, was supposed to be here tonight. We had an arrangement, purely professional. She gets media attention for her lifestyle brand. I get to show investors I'm settled. But she texted 20 minutes ago that she met someone else and can't keep pretending anymore. So you want me to pretend instead? Victoria asked, though her tone was more curious than accusatory. Just for tonight. Just for the photographs and the gala. After that, we can stage a quiet breakup. I'll compensate you generously. He named a figure that made her eyes widen. It was enough to save her struggling business, pay off her mother's medical bills, and still have money left over. This is crazy, she whispered. We're strangers. I know. And I wouldn't ask if I weren't desperate. His amber eyes searched hers. But there's something I should tell you first. I don't just need you for the photographs. The gala downstairs, the one you're planning, that's where Hammond wants to observe us together. He wants to see how we interact naturally. Victoria's breath caught. You know I'm the event planner? Your name is on all the materials. Victoria Bennett Events. You've done an incredible job from what I've seen of the preparations. He paused. Which means you know how to perform under pressure. How to make people believe in something beautiful even when it's just carefully orchestrated. That's all this would be. A performance. Before Victoria could respond, Mr. Hammond called out, Everything all right, you two? The photographer is ready. Julian looked at her, and Victoria saw her own reflection in his eyes. A woman at a crossroads, being offered a chance to solve all her problems with one evening of pretense. It was wrong, deceptive, possibly disastrous. It was also tempting in a way that had nothing to do with the money and everything to do with the way this stranger looked at her. Like she was the answer to a prayer he hadn't known he was praying. One evening, she said quietly, and then we never have to see each other again. Relief flooded his features. One evening, I promise. They turned back to face the photographer, and Julian's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. The photographer began directing them, asking them to stand close, to look at each other, to share a private smile. Tell me something real about you, Julian murmured as the camera clicked. So I don't feel like I'm holding a complete stranger. I'm terrified of birds, Victoria admitted. Even tiny ones. They're unpredictable. His lips quirked. I'm afraid of the dark. Have been since I was 5? A tech genius afraid of the dark? We all have our irrational fears? The camera flashed again. Tell me something else. Something true. Talk to my plants. I've named them all. I can't cook anything except grilled cheese sandwiches, and even those are questionable. Despite everything, Victoria found herself smiling genuinely. We're really doing this, aren't we? We're really doing this, Julian confirmed. And as the photographer captured that moment, neither of them realized they had stopped performing for the camera and started being real with each other. The photographs took 20 minutes. By the end, Victoria had learned that Julian had a younger sister he adored, that he drank his coffee black but secretly loved sweet pastries, and that he had started his company because his grandmother had died from a treatable condition that was diagnosed too late. Beautiful, the photographer declared, reviewing the images. You two have incredible chemistry. These will be perfect for the magazine spread. Mr. Hammond beamed. I must say, Julian, seeing you like this puts my mind at ease. Chen Industries values family stability, and clearly you've found something special. As the group filed out to head down to the gala, Julian and Victoria were left alone for a moment. The suite felt suddenly too large and too small at the same time. Thank you, Julian said softly. I know this is beyond anything you should have agreed to. Victoria smoothed her dress, checking her reflection in a nearby mirror. We should establish some ground rules. What's our story? How did we meet? Keep it close to the truth, Julian suggested. We met through your event planning business. You were coordinating a company celebration, and I was immediately drawn to your creativity and passion. How long have we been together? 6 months. Long enough to be serious? Not so long that people wonder why they haven't heard about you before? Victoria nodded, her event planner brain organizing the details. We're keeping it private because I don't like media attention. You respect my boundaries? Perfect. He offered his arm. Ready to convince a ballroom full of people that we're madly in love? Victoria took his arm, feeling the solid warmth of him beside her. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. As they walked toward the door, neither noticed how naturally they moved together, or how their reflections in the suite's mirrors looked less like strangers, playing a part and more like two people who belonged together. The performance had already begun, but the line between performance and reality was about to become dangerously blurred. The Grand Sheer Hotel's grand ballroom awaited, filled with hundreds of guests, all about to witness what they believed was the love story of the year. Neither Victoria nor Julian could have known that by the end of the evening. The biggest lie they told would be pretending they weren't already falling for each other. The ballroom sparkled like a jewelry box come to life. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing light across the polished floor, and elegant floral arrangements filled the air with subtle fragrance. Victoria felt Julian's hand steady at her back as they descended the grand staircase, and every eye in the room turned to watch them. Smile, Julian whispered near her ear. We're the happiest couple in the world, remember? Victoria smiled, though her heart raced. Below, she could see her assistant Rebecca frantically waving at her, probably with another crisis to solve. But before she could even think about work, they were surrounded by curious guests. Julian, you dark horse, a silver-haired woman in emerald silk, gushed. You've been hiding this beautiful creature from us all this time. Julian's arm slipped around Victoria's waist, pulling her closer. The gesture felt protective, rather than possessive. Mrs. Lancaster, may I introduce Victoria Bennett? Victoria, this is Penelope Lancaster, one of our most generous foundation supporters. Charmed, Mrs. Lancaster said, her sharp eyes assessing everything about Victoria. How did you two meet? Victoria felt Julian tense slightly beside her, but she was in her element now. This was what she did best. Reading rooms, managing expectations, creating experiences. I was planning a product launch for Julian's company, Victoria said smoothly. He kept changing the menu, insisting we needed something that would make people feel at home rather than impressed. We spent 3 hours debating the emotional impact of different appetizers. Julian laughed, and the sound was genuine. She thought I was insane. I thought you cared deeply about making people comfortable, Victoria corrected, surprised to find herself speaking truthfully. That's when I knew you were different. Mrs. Lancaster pressed a hand to her chest. Oh, that's lovely. Julian, she's a keeper. As Mrs. Lancaster moved away, Julian leaned down to whisper, that was brilliant improvisation. I've planned enough events to know how to tell a good story, Victoria replied. But her skin tingled where his breath touched her neck. The evening continued in a blur of introductions and performances. Victoria met investors, philanthropists, and society figures, all while keeping one eye on the event logistics. She noticed a table with wilting centerpieces and discreetly texted her assistant. She saw the catering staff falling behind and subtly adjusted the timeline in her head. You're still working, aren't you? Julian asked during a quiet moment between introductions. I can't help it. This is my event. Dance with me, he said suddenly, extending his hand as the orchestra began a waltz. I need to check on the dessert service. Your assistant has it under control. And we need to look like a couple who can't keep their hands off each other. Remember? His amber eyes held a challenge. Victoria took his hand and he led her onto the dance floor. His hand settled on her waist, and she placed hers on his shoulder. They began to move, and Victoria was surprised by how well they fit together. You're a good dancer, she said. Required skill for someone who attends too many of these functions. He spun her smoothly. Tell me something else true about yourself. Why do you keep asking that? Because I'm lying to everyone in this room about knowing you. The least I can do is actually get to know you a little. Victoria considered this. Around them, other couples swayed, and she could feel eyes watching them, assessing, judging, approving. I started my business 3 years ago, after my father died. He always said I had a gift for bringing people together, for creating moments that mattered. Julian's hand tightened slightly on her waist. He sounds like he was proud of you, But he also left my mother with significant medical bills. That's why I work so hard. Why I can't afford for tonight to be anything less than perfect. Is that why you agreed to this? Julian asked quietly. The money I offered? Victoria met his eyes. Partly, but also because you said something that resonated with me. About your company helping people who need it. My father died because the diagnosis came too late. If your technology can prevent that for other families, then maybe helping you tonight means something. The music swelled around them, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. Victoria felt something shift in her chest, a recognition of kinship. They were both people driven by loss, trying to build something meaningful from grief. Mr. Thorne, Mr. Hammond, appeared at Julian's elbow as the dance ended. Might I steal a moment? Mr. Chen from Chen Industries is here and would like to meet Victoria. Julian's hand found Victoria's, their fingers interlacing naturally. Of course, Mr. Chen was a distinguished man in his 70s, with kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. Miss Bennett, it's a pleasure. Julian speaks highly of you, does he? Victoria asked, amused, despite her nervousness. He tells me you keep him grounded, that you remind him why the work matters. Mr. Chen studied them both. In my experience, the measure of a person is found in who they choose to love. Tell me, what is it about Julian that captured your heart? The question was direct, and Victoria felt Julian go still beside her. This was the test, she realized. Mr. Chen wasn't just making conversation. He was assessing whether their relationship was real. Victoria looked at Julian, really looked at him. At the worry lines that suggested he carried too much responsibility. At the kindness in his eyes when he looked at her. At the gentle way he touched her back. Always asking permission, always considerate. He sees people, Victoria said softly, the truth surprising her as she spoke it. Not their use to him, not their status or wealth. Just who they are. When he talks about his work, he doesn't talk about profit margins or market share. He talks about the grandmother in rural China who could get diagnosed early, the child in South America who could access care. He sees people and he cares about them. How could I not love that? She felt Julian's hand tighten around hers, but she couldn't look at him. She was too afraid of what she might see in his face. Mr. Chen smiled slowly. That is a woman who knows the man she loves. Julian, you are fortunate. After Mr. Chen moved away, Julian pulled Victoria aside into the shadow of one of the grand columns. That was beautiful, he said, his voice rough. Almost made me believe it myself. It wasn't entirely false, Victoria admitted. I meant what I said about your work, Victoria. I need to tell you something. He looked troubled. This arrangement tonight, I didn't just choose you because you were convenient. When you walked into that suite and I saw you, there was something, a connection I felt immediately. That's why I took the risk of asking you. Victoria's breath caught. Julian, we barely know each other. I know, but I've been in enough fake situations to know what real feels like. And this, whatever this is between us, it feels real. Before Victoria could respond, Rebecca rushed over, her face pale. Victoria, we have a crisis. The kitchen just informed me that the special dietary meals were prepared with the wrong ingredients. We have 3 guests with severe allergies who can't eat anything we've prepared. Victoria's professional instincts kicked in immediately. Show me the menu cards for those tables. Julian, I need to handle this. Go, he said. I'll manage the socializing. Do what you do best. Victoria spent the next 40 minutes in controlled chaos, coordinating with the kitchen staff, calling in favors from nearby restaurants, and personally ensuring that every guest with dietary restrictions received a meal that was both safe and spectacular. By the time she returned to the ballroom, dinner service was ending. And Julian was deep in conversation with a group of investors. He looked up as she approached, and his face lit up in a way that made her stomach flip. He excused himself and met her halfway across the floor. Crisis averted, he asked. All guests fed and happy. She realized she was exhausted but exhilarated. I think I might need some air. Come on. Julian took her hand and led her through a side door onto a balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool and welcome after the warmth of the ballroom. City lights stretched out before them, and for the first time all evening, they were alone. "You're incredible," Julian said. "Watching you work tonight, the way you handled everything while still playing this part, you're remarkable. So are you. Those investors hang on your every word because they believe in you. They should. Your vision is genuinely good." They stood side by side, not quite touching, but aware of every inch of space between them. The sounds of the gala drifted through the open doors, but out here, it felt like they were in their own world. Victoria, Julian said quietly, "What if we didn't end this tonight?" She turned to look at him, her heart pounding. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we kept seeing each other? Not as a performance, but as two people who want to explore this connection between us."
"Julian, we met 4 hours ago."
"We don't even really know each other. Then let's get to know each other. No cameras, no investors, no performance, just us." He turned to face her fully. "I know this is insane. I know we started with a lie. But sometimes the best things begin in the most unexpected ways." Victoria wanted to say yes. Every part of her wanted to lean into this feeling, this possibility. But fear held her back. What if it doesn't work? What if this connection we feel is just the adrenaline of the situation? Then we'll find out together. He reached up, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "But I think you feel what I feel. That this is something worth exploring." Victoria closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his hand near her cheek. When she opened them, she found him watching her with an intensity that took her breath away. "1 month," she heard herself say. "We date for real for 1 month. No lies, no performances. Just honesty. If it's real, we'll know. If it's not, we walk away as friends." Julian smiled, and it transformed his entire face. 1 month, starting now." He leaned down slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When their lips met, it was soft and tentative, and absolutely nothing like a performance. It was the kiss of two people taking a leap of faith together, certain of where they would land, but willing to jump anyway. When they pulled apart, Victoria was breathless. Through the doors, she could hear applause. The gala's keynote speech had just concluded, and soon guests would be leaving. "We should go back in," she said. "In a minute." Julian pulled her close, and she let herself rest against his chest. Hearing his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, "Thank you, Victoria. For tonight, for taking a chance, for being real with me." "Thank you for seeing me," she replied. "The real me." They stood there on the balcony as the gala wound down below. Two strangers who had found each other in the most improbable way. The performance was over, but something much more genuine was just beginning. The morning sun streamed through Victoria's apartment windows, highlighting the chaos of her normal life. Event planning materials covered every surface. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table, and her phone buzzed constantly with messages from clients. It had been 1 week since the gala. 1 week since that kiss on the balcony. 1 week since Julian Thorne had turned her carefully organized life upside down. Her phone rang, and she smiled before even checking the screen. She knew who it would be. "Good morning." Julian's voice was warm through the speaker. "Did you sleep well? I had dreams about napkin folding techniques. Very exciting." Victoria curled up on her couch, tucking her feet beneath her. "How was your morning meeting?" "Productive. Chen Industries signed the investment agreement. $300 million to expand our healthcare AI to 20 new countries. Julian, that's incredible." Victoria felt genuine happiness for him. Over the past week, through dinners and long phone calls and stolen hours between their busy schedules, she had learned just how much this project meant to him. "Wouldn't have happened without you," he said softly. "That night at the gala, you made them believe not just in my business, but in me as a person. You did that yourself. I just stood next to you. You were extraordinary." I paused. "Victoria, I need to ask you something. The company is hosting a press conference tomorrow to announce the Chen Industries partnership. They want you there. As my partner?" Victoria's stomach tightened. "Julian, we agreed. No more performances. Just us, dating normally."
I know.
"But the truth is, My relationship status was part of why Chen Industries felt comfortable investing. Mr. Chen specifically mentioned you in our final meeting. He said seeing me with you showed him I understood what really mattered in life, so you need me to keep pretending. Victoria heard the flatness. In her own voice, no, I need you there, as the woman I'm actually dating. The press will assume we're serious because we are, aren't we? Getting serious, I mean. Victoria stood, pacing her small living room. In 1 week, Julian had become a constant presence in her thoughts. She caught herself smiling at random moments, remembering something he said. She felt a flutter in her chest when his name appeared on her phone. She had started to imagine a future that included him. But was it real? Or was it just the intoxication of the fantasy they had created? Can we meet today? She asked. I need to talk to you face to face. I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to his word. Julian arrived at her apartment exactly 20 minutes later, looking slightly disheveled in jeans and a casual shirt. His hair not quite as perfectly styled as usual. Victoria found him even more attractive this way, without the polished veneer of the corporate world. Your apartment is exactly what I imagined, he said, looking around at the organized chaos. Creative, but efficient. Coffee, she offered, please. They sat together on her worn couch, coffee mugs warming their hands, and for a moment, neither spoke. I'm scared, Victoria finally admitted. This past week has been wonderful. You've been wonderful. But I keep wondering if we're just caught up in the fantasy we created at the gala. If what we feel is real or just the echo of what we pretended to feel. Julian set down his mug, taking her hand. I've been wondering the same thing. So I have a proposal. Another arrangement? Victoria asked with a slight smile. A test. Let's strip away all the glamour, all the pretense. No fancy dinners, no galas, no performances. Let me see your real life, and you see mine. If what we feel survives ordinary reality, then we'll know it's real. Victoria considered this. What did you have in mind? Today, right now? Show me your real life. What would you normally do on a Saturday? Victoria laughed. You don't want to see my real life. It's incredibly boring. I have laundry to do, groceries to buy, and I was planning to reorganize my supply closet. Perfect. Let's do all of that together. You're serious. Completely. I want to know the real Victoria Bennett. Not the elegant woman who dazzled a ballroom, but the one who talks to her plants and reorganizes. Closets on Saturday mornings. So they did. Victoria found herself at the laundromat with Julian Thorne, tech entrepreneur worth hundreds of millions, helping her sort whites from colors. He made her laugh by dramatically reading care labels in different accents. At the grocery store, she discovered he had no idea how to select ripe avocados and genuinely didn't know that you could buy bread that wasn't already sliced. How have you survived this long? She teased, showing him how to check a melon for ripeness. I eat out a lot, or have food delivered. He held up a butternut squash. What even is this? That's a squash. You roast it. Why would anyone roast a squash when restaurants exist? Back at her apartment, they tackled the supply closet together. Julian proved surprisingly good at creating organizational systems. Approaching her event supplies with the same methodical thinking he used for software design. She grouped by event type. Not by item type, he suggested, moving boxes around. All wedding supplies together? All corporate event supplies together? That's actually brilliant, Victoria admitted, as they worked side by side in the small closet. Their arms brushing, their conversation flowing easily between deep topics and silly observations. Victoria felt something settle in her chest. This felt right. Not magical or thrilling, but solid and real. Julian, she said as they organized the last box, this is who I am. A woman who spends Saturday doing laundry and reorganizing closets. Who worries about her mother's medical bills and whether she can make payroll next month. Who has panic attacks before big events and talks to herself when she's stressed. I know, he said softly. And I'm a man who's afraid of the dark and can't cook and sometimes gets so focused on work that I forget to eat or sleep. Who has nightmares about failing the people depending on my company. Who spent 5 years afraid to let anyone close because I couldn't tell if they wanted me or my success. They sat on her living room floor, surrounded by neatly organized boxes, and looked at each other. I'm falling in love with you, Julian said quietly. The real you. The one who makes me laugh at the laundromat and teaches me about squash and looks at me like I'm just a person, not a CEO or an investment opportunity. Victoria's heart swelled. I'm falling in love with you too. The one who spent his Saturday helping me reorganize a closet and who gets excited about helping people he'll never meet. Julian cupped her face in his hands. So what do we do about the press conference? About the public part of this relationship? Victoria took a deep breath. We tell the truth. Which truth? That we met at that gala. That what started as a convenient arrangement became something real. That we're navigating this together and we don't have all the answers, but we're figuring it out.
Ow.
Julian smiled. We'd be admitting we lied initially. We'd be admitting we're human. That we made an impulsive decision and found something unexpected. Victoria smiled back. People will either forgive us or they won't. But at least we'll be honest. Mr. Chen might pull the investment. Then he will. But you'll build something else amazing because that's who you are. And I'll be there helping you do it because that's who I want to be. Julian pulled her close, kissing her deeply. When they broke apart, both were smiling. I think Julian said that we should write our statement together. Full transparency. No more performances. They spent the rest of the afternoon crafting their message, sitting side by side at Victoria's small kitchen table. They wrote about the pressure Julian felt, the mistaken identity, the arrangement they made. They wrote about how pretending to be in love had shown them what real love could feel like. They wrote about choosing honesty going forward. The press conference the next day was unlike anything either had expected. Standing before cameras and journalists, Victoria felt Julian's hand steady in hers as he read their statement. There was shocked silence when he finished, then a flood of questions. So your relationship started as a lie? One reporter called out. Started as a desperate solution to an immediate problem, Victoria answered. But it became real very quickly. We're not perfect. We made a choice that many might question. But we found something genuine in an imperfect situation. Mr. Chen, do you have any comment? Another reporter asked. And Victoria's heart sank as she saw the elderly investor rise from his seat in the audience. Mr. Chen walked to the podium, his expression unreadable. When I decided to invest in Mr. Thorne's company, he said slowly, it was not because I believed he had a perfect life or a perfect relationship. It was because I believed he understood what truly mattered. Today, watching him and Miss Bennett stand before you and tell the truth. Even knowing it might cost them everything, I am more convinced than ever that I made the right choice. Relief flooded through Victoria. Mr. Chen continued, young people, you have shown more courage today than most show in a lifetime. You have honored truth over convenience. That is the character I wish to support. The press conference ended with more questions than answers, but Victoria didn't care. Walking out of the building hand in hand with Julian, she felt lighter than she had in years. We did it, Julian said, pulling her close on the sidewalk. We told the truth, and somehow we survived it. We didn't just survive it. We chose each other over everything else. Over money, over reputation, over comfort. He kissed her forehead. Victoria Bennett, will you continue this messy, imperfect, honest relationship with me? Yes, she said simply. For as long as you'll have me. 6 months later, Victoria stood in Julian's apartment, which had gradually become their apartment. Event planning materials mingled with tech journals. Her plants lined the windowsills. His coffee maker sat next to her tea kettle. I have something for you, Julian said, emerging from the bedroom with a small box. Victoria's heart skipped. Julian, it's not what you think. Open it. Inside was a key. Not a ring, but a simple brass key. It's the key to my house in the countryside, Julian explained. I bought it last month. It's small and quiet, with a garden where we can grow vegetables we don't know how to cook. I thought we could escape there on weekends. Build something slow and real, away from the city and the cameras and the pressure. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. You bought a house? I bought us a future. A real one, not a performed one. A place where we can just be Victoria and Julian, not the couple from the headlines. He pulled her close. What do you say? I say yes. To the house, to the future, to all of it. She kissed him, tasting salt from her happy tears. I love you. The real you. I love you. The real you. They had started with a lie, a desperate performance to convince others of something that didn't exist. But in pretending to be in love, they had discovered what love actually meant. Not the fairy tale romance of magazine spreads and perfectly orchestrated moments, but the messy, honest, beautiful reality of two people choosing each other every single day outside. The city continued its endless rhythm, but inside their home, Victoria and Julian had found something rarer than fame or fortune. They had found truth in the most unlikely place, and that truth had set them free. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click like. Share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.